Why should anyone still read Crime and Punishment? Because it begins with a murder, but it does not stay inside the shape of a murder story. Dostoevsky is interested in the moment after the crime, when an idea meets a conscience and a clever theory begins to collapse inside a human mind. Raskolnikov believes he can divide people into ordinary and extraordinary lives. If a great man can step over a law for a higher purpose, he wonders, why not him? The novel turns that dangerous thought into drama. It asks what happens when philosophy stops being abstract and becomes an excuse for blood. The murder is shocking, but the real suspense is psychological. Raskolnikov walks through the city feverish, isolated, proud, and terrified. He wants to be above guilt, yet his body betrays him. His mind keeps returning to the act. The punishment begins before any official sentence appears. That is why the book still feels modern. It studies alienation, poverty, pride, and moral self-deception with uncomfortable precision. Raskolnikov does not look like a simple villain. He looks like a person who has argued himself away from ordinary compassion and then cannot survive the emptiness that follows. The city matters too. St. Petersburg becomes a pressure chamber. Cramped rooms, debts, hunger, humiliation, and overheated streets. The setting does not excuse the crime, but it helps explain the atmosphere that breeds desperate ideas. Dostoevsky makes society and psychology press against each other. Sonia changes the moral center of the story. She has suffered, but she does not turn suffering into permission to harm others. Her presence challenges Raskolnikov without becoming a courtroom speech. She represents humility, endurance, and the possibility that confession can be the beginning of return. The novel is not only asking whether Raskolnikov will be caught, it is asking whether he can become human again. That is a deeper question than guilt or innocence. Crime and Punishment endures because it understands that the hardest prison may be the story we tell ourselves to avoid responsibility. A reference-style explainer also needs to place the book in literary history. Crime and Punishment belongs to the age of the great psychological novel, but it behaves with the speed of a thriller. Instead of asking only what happened, it asks how a mind prepares itself to permit the unforgivable. The title itself carries the argument. Crime is a visible act, but punishment is not only a sentence imposed from outside. It is shame, fever, suspicion, self-hatred, and the slow destruction of the story Raskolnikov wants to believe about himself. That inner punishment is what gives the novel its force. The supporting characters are not decoration. They test different answers to suffering, cruelty, sacrifice, calculation, faith, despair, and love. Around Raskolnikov, Dostoevsky builds a moral weather system. Every conversation pushes him toward the question he fears most. Was his theory ever true? For a modern reader, the book is still uncomfortable because it understands rationalization. People rarely commit wrong by calling it wrong. They build arguments first. Crime and Punishment shows how seductive those arguments can become, and how hard it is to return from them once another human life has paid the price. This video is supported by Bookspace, a place for people who love books to discover new titles, notes, and readers with similar taste. The link is in the description.